Pickaxe.
Welcome to the Chance Encounters podcast. We've been running board game cafes around the UK for the past 7 years now. From hen do's to family do's, first dates to breakups, we've recommended the perfect game for every situation, and now we're looking for a fresh challenge. Every episode we'll be inviting a guest to put our board game knowledge to the test. They'll come armed with an abstract and absurd scenario, and it's up to us to figure out what that situation calls for and recommend a game that totally pops up their pirate. Whoever's game recommendation our guest loves the most will score a point, and at the end of the series, one person will be crowned the Titan of Board Games!
Whoa!
Ooh. Yes. I am Richard Scarsbrook. I'm one of the founders of Chance Encounters and the host of the podcast. And when we first opened CNC, we were literally giving cheese away. We had what was then known as the cheese board, and we literally didn't know how to price food, and we were actually underpricing it so that we lost money on every sale. So, as you can tell, we're great at business. And I'm joined by Ben.
Hello, I'm Ben. I make videos with the Yogscast. I love board games and I'm a massive nerd. I will happily take free cheese. That's crazy. Maybe that is the secret to your success. Maybe you got snowballed in the beginning by the savvy cheese eaters. And then it all just went from there, you know? That might you might be giving TED Talks in the future and telling everyone to give away cheese.
Just
in all their
undercut
future
it all.
business endeavors.
Amazing. And our guest host for this week is Russ.
Hello, my name's Russell. I work at Chance Encounters. I have various things I do there, but currently finding myself very good at telling you a game based on very limited abstract descriptions of that game, which is a skill that I've been very good at from working at board game cafes for the last few years. So you try it out. Just give me a game and I'll guess it. No, don't do that. No, it's better when it's real. It's better when it's real. But honestly, customers have given me so weird descriptions before, and I like it because when I'm doing it in front of a colleague, you can always kind of see them go like that weird face, like, what? How the heck did you get that from that? So yeah, it's a very good skill that I have. I don't know how to turn it into like riches, but we're still working on that.
Well, if there's a game you can't remember, post in the comments a vague description of that game.
And I'll try my best. If I've played it, that's the only caveat. I mean, I've played a lot of games, so chances are I have, but if I don't know the game, how am I going to remember it? That's the only caveat.
This is Ross's 100% guarantee. You post a vague description and he will be able to name what it is.
If you can't, we'll send you a cheese board.
Exactly, yes.
We check it with the lawyers. That is we're allowed to do that.
I'm not sure we can cross the boundaries into other countries. We'll have to double check that one and get back to you. Thank you very much. And our guest for this week is Semi-Co-op's Heinze.
Yes, all the way from the land of cheese.
Amazing. We'll import it from Denmark?
The Netherlands.
Netherlands? Why? I'm really sorry. My North European, it's not very good.
Ours is terrible as well. We once said several Scandinavian board game people came from the same country, and we were rightfully harassed out of the building.
Oh no! So what you're saying is it's not just those with to be honest, I once got fairly reasonably insulted because I didn't know where Belfast was. So please don't test me on that either. My geography is absolutely terrible, even much closer to home. So
did you at least know it was in, our neck of the woods?
Yes, but exactly the fact that it was the capital of...
Oh my god, he still doesn't know.
It's a 50-50. It's a 50-50 with
Northern Ireland!
Yes! Well
Sorry. Well, there we go. So we're also becoming a trivia podcast as well. So, but thank you so much for joining us, Heinze.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No worries. So we asked you to come prepared with an abstract and absurd scenario. Could you let us in on what that is?
Yeah,
Maybe give it slightly more abstract, and Russ will tell you what the actual thing is. Is that?
we could try. Russ and I have been chatting along about it. But no, the scenario is as follows. After years of conspiracies and hunches, it turns out subterranean people are actually real. And more than that, there are several tunnels with different species of subterranean creatures coming towards the surface. And they'll be here in 72 hours.
Okay.
Now, we have gathered 300 random people from all across the globe because we're afraid subterranean people would be offended if we sent scientists and linguists. And these people will be trained using a board game to try and make contact with these subterranean people and hopefully prevent any conflict or bloodshed. And so I need a board game to train 300 people in 72 hours to peacefully negotiate with subterranean people.
Wow. What kind of subterranean? Are we talking mole men, lizard people?
I thought it would be fun if it's a mix of different... So mole men would be good. Maybe giant roaches. I like lizard people.
You know what? This sounds like a really good board game
This
in itself.
Not only did we not realize that there were actually people who were living underneath, but we actually missed the fact that there was vast arrays of these as well. There was a huge variety of people who lived under.
We've always been looking up. That's the problem.
Yeah. You know how we haven't really explored the depths of the ocean
Exactly.
in a similar way? How deep have we really gone into the earth?
Yeah, I mean, if you count all of underground as part of Earth, we've explored, less than 1% of the Earth's
Exactly.
innards.
The gooey insides.
Wow, is that true? That's like...
Well, you think how big a sphere is, right?
Yeah.
And we've only dug into that sort of topsoil part, and then there's the rest of it, which is hundreds of times more.
Yeah.
Well, I heard this. I hate to repeat things without verifying them myself, but it does seem likely. If you were to looking at like a snooker ball, which appears very smooth, if you were to zoom in to like a snooker ball and look at it at the same scale of Earth, it would actually have crevices and peaks that were higher than Earth's. Which is just a really wild fact that I've said. I can't 100% verify that.
Wild, I love
but
it.
Apparently but I just thought that was wild because it's just so smooth.
Yeah.
You think of snooker balls being really smooth, but apparently they share, variations in the surface area that's greater than Earth's. So it's kind of...
So the Earth is proportionately smoother than a snooker ball.
Yeah, apparently, according to someone on the internet.
You heard it here first.
It just makes me worry because that's one of those really cool facts that I keep calling it a fact. I'm going to go with it, whatever.
It's a story is what it is.
Yeah, like ideas that I heard and it stuck with me. And I was like, that's just so cool that I just have to tell people about this. And nobody else has heard it. So I'm like, maybe it is a lie. But it's a cool lie.
One of those that walks a line where you're like, I guess, that could make sense.
Because you don't know how, Earth from a distance looks real, circular. You can't really see mountains when it's, that small. So it does sort of seem like it could be true.
Seems plausible.
Yeah, plausible, maybe factual. We just don't know. Depends on the
I do remember giving a lecture about geographical data and having a 3D scan of the planet. And it looked like something a 2-year-old would make out of clay, not that round as you'd hoped.
Okay.
Wow.
Interesting.
I feel real embarrassed now.
No, but now I want to know one of us is wrong.
Maybe if you know it, drop it in the comments to save us all Google searching afterwards.
The quickest way to find out if something's true is to say the wrong thing on the internet.
Yeah.
It's true.
And have someone correct you, right?
That's so true. So many people ready to just jump out there and correct you immediately.
Actually,
Yeah.
So we've got 300 people of Earth that have no necessary skills or deemed skills. They're just people who... Did they volunteer? Was this conscripted service?
Let's say they volunteered. Otherwise, we have other problems, maybe.
It's not like jury duty. You got to do your mole man duty. Come on, line up.
See,
You see the mailman and they go like, oh, your time is up. You're going mole people negotiating.
Finally, my time's come.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I think that would be more... I guess that's easier, because if you're volunteering for this mission, you're at least going to want to do it. Because if you were being taught to learn or being taught how to play a board game that you would then need to play with other people against your will, that I know people who are very nice people who would actually balk at that idea and would also be very bad at it. Like the idea of learning a board game to some people is still like, oh no. And that's
I know some people who would lose on purpose just to get out of it quicker.
That's true.
It's so true. But yeah, that's actually, we get that at the cafe. People who just, they kind of settle and they play a game that they know just because they don't want to learn the rules. And so that's kind of feel like we're saving them sometimes when we come in and recommend a game and we tell them, hey, we can teach you how to play. You don't need to read a single line of rules. And then they go, oh, okay. So then that's kind of a nice thing that we do at the cafe, yeah.
That's one of my favorite things. I very rarely read a rule book now. Either someone will teach me a board game, or I'll find a YouTube video or whatever else it would be. I very rarely read the actual thing back to front.
I actually do. I learn board games very well from watching other people play them, or in some certain circumstances, watching other people teach other people the board games, because there's a couple of video series online where they teach the viewer the board game or teach the other people in the video the board game, and I just like take it on board. There are games that I've never played that I can teach really well because I've absorbed that information from watching it on a video, which... Is that a skill? I feel like that's a skill, right?
I think that's a skill.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're literally paid for it, so that sounds like a skill to me.
One of our original staff members would teach Pandemic, and they had never played Pandemic before. They just literally were like, I know it's a popular game, I'm going to learn how to do it, and then I'll teach the game, but I've never played it before. I always thought that was really interesting. I probably wouldn't recommend it to everyone either, but it felt like it was a pretty good feat to somehow understand how it's all working without...
I worry there's like a risk you're going to accidentally teach it wrong, because there's a part of it that doesn't click. Because sometimes I've played games that once I'm halfway through the game, I'm like, this doesn't feel right. And then I've double checked, and then I've been like, oh yeah, no, we are doing that bit wrong. But I wouldn't have known that until I got like a few turns in and saw that it didn't seem to match and gel, you know? Like a friend of mine played Pandemic and he was saying, oh man, I've just finished Pandemic. I don't know why you guys rave about it. It's so easy. And it turned out that when they were like intensifying the plague, they were shuffling the whole deck instead of just putting the infected countries on top of the deck and drawing from the same pile. So a slight misunderstanding of shuffling the discards and putting them on top. And he thought it was just shuffle all the cards together.
Yeah.
Real slight misinterpretation. Radically changes how that game plays.
Yeah.
The really upsetting part for me knowing that game is that bit is written on the card. It's not even you have to learn the rules. It's written on the card that tells you exactly what to do. So, I mean, I'd say partly the blame is on that, like not reading comprehension, not being the best. Yeah. But
skill issue.
And also, that's happened to me as well. Like I've definitely, somebody has taught me a game. I remember this happens mostly when other people teach me how to play a game, like in real life, and they have misinterpreted the rules somewhere, and I don't know how, and I've just gone blind trust. Yes, I believe you can know how to play this game, and then taught someone else, and they've questioned it, and I've been like, yeah, I've never really questioned that. Let's have a look, and then find out that I'm wrong. And I feel like, oh man, how many people have I taught that wrong now? I'm spreading bad rules around the world. This is awful feeling.
Yeah. But that's why I don't trust demos at gaming cons anymore, because I've been just burned too many times that you realize, like, wait a minute, that doesn't add up at all.
I think
yes.
A lot of those game con demo people just haven't had enough time. They've literally done their rulebook that morning.
I mean, they try their hardest, of course. But then, I mean, I get it. Just you're standing there for hours. There's lots of people. You try to shorten your explanation to like on a second margin.
Yeah.
I'd find that kind of interesting because when I learn games and teach them a few times, I am always looking for a more efficient way to teach them in a way that makes sense. So it's kind of like using rules as sort of like building blocks and knowing which ones to lay first and then which ones to come afterwards. And so you've laid the foundation and then which ones to introduce afterwards. And I always find it makes me feel like a bit of a weirdo sometimes. I'm thinking of rules teaching in that way. But I have found that if you do that, sometimes you can come up with a really good way to teach a game that kind of only introduces the elements where necessary, that you don't feel confused because you are talking about something and then you introduce a term or something in the game and then you have to go, right, let's do a little aside and let me explain how that is. And then sometimes that can lead to other things that aren't explained. But yeah, I always find when I teach, I just like that idea of optimizing a teach, which I like doing. I find it's that, again, makes me weird. I'm kind of coming across kind of really learning a lot about myself on this podcast.
I find that you can get through, depending on who's doing a teach, you can get through an entire teach and then be like, oh, cool, what am I trying to do? What's the objective? How do we win? So I normally try and front load that to be like, okay, this is what you're trying to do, and then I'll tell you about how you get to that point.
Yeah, that's critical.
And matching it with the theme. It's like, okay, we're gonna make believe we're doctors for the next hour, and we're fighting pandemics. That already helps because every thing you explain falls into that framework.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So, mole people.
Mole people.
I have to admit, I can't think of many games that have prepared me for interspecies diplomacy. So let's just talk about what is important for diplomacy and let's try and like at least abstractly think about what kind of games might help us achieve that. Are we going to be playing it with? Are the games to prepare the negotiators and give them the right skills to do it, or are the mole people or all the subterranean races, are they going to play the game with us and it's going to like break the ice?
No, I think they're gonna be training the negotiators.
Right.
So we have to teach them like communication skills, non-language based communication skills, and also like negotiation skills as well. So it has to be an easy enough game to teach people in a limited time with lots of different people, but also has to teach these skills. It's kind of interesting. What even are these skills? What are negotiation skills? I haven't watched enough heist movies to really have a grasp on what these skills are.
I would say you have to figure out the goals of the other party. So why are they coming to the surface? That seems like a good start, probably. Do they have a long-running feud with whales or sparrows or something?
I just love that idea. They've come up to take their vengeance on the sparrows. The sparrows is like, what? What have I done?
You're stealing our worms.
Do we know how many underground people there will be? Or is it all of them? Or is it a representative amount?
Yeah, were you talking about an invasion or like a diplomatic mission?
Well, that's the problem. They're underground, so you just know they're digging towards the surface. But
we're there to interrupt them with a trained demo team. Like, whoa! Before you do any of that nonsense, let's just play a game.
Have they learn our language at all? Is communication going to be a difficult situation?
I think it's more fun if we don't know their language.
We don't know their language. Okay.
That immediately cuts out so many games. But I'm wondering if it's cut out too many.
Well, they're not playing the games, right?
No.
The games the people are playing can be language dependent as long as they in some way help prepare them for first contact.
Yeah.
So we're trying to build social skills, maybe with some form of analysis. So they're trying to think quickly on their feet, things that promote intelligent questions whilst still being social fish.
How about yourself personally? What kind of games? What kind of elements of games turn on and turn offs for you? What do you see in a game and think, I will never play that game, or I really want to try that game?
I don't think I have a lot of turn-offs. I'll try anything at least once. And I think that's the most important thing for me, is if it's a rule or mechanic that I haven't tried, or it's just outright silly in its scope or what you have to do, I am mostly the guy who's trying to convince friends, like, yeah, we should do this. We should be writing each other letters as estranged family members, or we should find Alice who's missing by only using chat windows or stuff like that.
I know you said you'd like to try anything once, but on the back of that, has there been anything that you've tried and been like, not for me?
I don't like Food Chain Magnet. I've tried it 4 times maybe. And I honestly can say I will never play it again unless I have to do it to save loved ones, and otherwise, no way.
Wow.
Why? Out of curiosity, why? Because I guess just to bring some people in who don't know that game, it's a game where you're building up a fast food sort of business in a map and trying to compete for people's custom. But it's quite cutthroat, is it?
It's very cutthroat, and that's the problem. The theme sounds fun, like, we're running a fast food restaurant, we're making hamburgers, selling drinks, stuff like that. But it's a very, very cutthroat game. Maybe that's one of the problems. I always played it with people who played it more often. And it also takes a long time, in my experience, at least an hour or 3. And about 45 minutes, you could reach a situation in which you realize, like, okay, I'm sort of out of the game. It doesn't really matter what I do anymore. And then you just sit there going like, oh, I could be playing so many cool games while waiting for my turn in this game where it's no longer relevant that I'm here.
It's almost like a player elimination game that isn't player elimination.
Sort of like, it feels that way emotionally, at least.
Yeah. There's it is the game that is often brought up when people talk about games that you can lose on the first turn.
Yeah.
They mean you can make such a strategic mistake early on in the game that you can never recover from it, but you still have to go through the motions of completing it.
Yeah, that always feels bad.
Yeah. But I don't know because I've played it once and I enjoyed it somewhat, but I was too confident in doing one decision that I thought would be brilliant and then realized actually that was a mistake. And yeah, it didn't feel good. It did not feel good when you have sort of the rug pulled by someone, which is funny because the reason that happened is because someone else made a very clever move, which must have felt great for them, but it did not feel great for me. And I don't know if many games that do that. And those games, as you said, don't feel that fun to play.
The defense that I have for Food Chain Magnet, and I haven't played it too much, is it's one of few games that's fully deterministic. As in, there's no luck involved, which is why it's such a high skill game, as it were, which favors the replaying significantly over, hey, I've just begun to play this game, and you don't have any experience or knowledge. And so that's one of the reasons it gets talked about so much, is because if you really hate luck, you really dislike the idea of dice rolling, if you just want to be good at a game and know it was entirely down to you and how you played, Food Chain Magnet has that appeal. But you're right, it is entirely unforgiving, which is potentially a draw depending on what kind of person you are.
Yeah. It depends how long the playtime is, right? Like, I'm a bit more okay with knowing that, okay, I messed up and I'm not going to win if the game only lasts 15, 20 minutes.
Right.
But if it's a 2.5 hour game...
Oh, at least.
I think that's on the low end.
Yeah.
So, other than not recommending Food Chain Magnet, but I don't think this suits this
which is terrible because it's a Dutch publisher, so I shouldn't be doing this. I'm sorry.
Splotter games, yeah.
What do other games does Splotter actually do? I mean, all I think about is...
They did Horseless Carriage recently. That's their recent game, I think.
And they did Roads and Boats, and they did Bus, and probably some other things I'm forgetting right now.
I really wish that, because there's a joke about some of the worst board game box art, and Roads and Boats kind of gets brought up a lot. So I wish we could show people that, but obviously I would advise you to go and look at it yourself. Not just because the art is very unlike a lot of other modern board game art, for sure. It's like a painted style, but very crudely painted style. But also, if I recall correctly, the logo itself is very weirdly designed.
It's a mystery.
Yeah,
I've never seen this before. I've just looked at it.
I would highly recommend looking it up for a kind of a little bit of an interesting insight as to what
graphic design is my passion.
That is exactly.
It is so bad. Some people love it, and the game.
Apparently, the game is really good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if that maybe was that their first game, I don't know.
I want to say it's Buzz, and that got a re-release with quite a good cover.
Again, a game with a very strange game that as well. Bus. You are essentially busing people from work to home to partying, and there's time travel involved. It's very strange, strange concept. But yeah, anyway, they've obviously done something right, because they're a very, successful company now. So
yeah,
I feel like you could just rate all of the Splotter games based on their cover art. And I don't think Roads and Boats would be very high up there.
What are you talking about? It's my new favorite graphic design piece of all time. It's amazing.
So many questions. It's like it really is a talking point in the board gaming hobby.
Maybe a nice Chance Encounter logo in the same style. Nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah.
New merch idea.
Exactly. That's cool.
Amazing.
All right, so we have 300 people, which may be too many or too few. We don't know how many people are coming up, and we're trying to educate them. We've got 72 hours to try and teach them. Since they're the common population, I assume they already have some socialization skills, rather than.
I would assume so, and I would assume they also know what a playing card is, or a die. Yeah. So we don't have to explain that concept to them.
Cool. Okay. Is there anything are they sleeping here? Is it 72 hours of like full-on playing?
Yeah,
do they get a break?
Let's go full disaster movie. We have a hidden base somewhere.
I was thinking that in my head, actually. I was like, with the people with the white coats, and then kind of overseeing on like a balcony.
Yeah, exactly.
Like this giant hangar, and you can just see people like learning games and getting really frustrated because the time pressure.
I think actually the Street Fighter movie has a giant clock counting down from 72 hours, so maybe we can repurpose that clock.
Really crank up the pressure. I like that. Make it like Independence Day.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, this.
I feel like in the
president's
the
first,
there. The first 10 minutes probably had them like making a dotted line right where they're going to breach the surface, and then that's where they put the base. They threw up all of those like white fences or something around, so they get those levels. Spotlights
we actually detected them a month ago, but it took us 27 days to build the bunker
and the clock.
And we don't have much time left for the prep.
The budget meeting ran a little long, but we got the clock, so we're all good.
I guess there's a lot of factors going on in here, which is a really interesting problem to solve. But I guess what's the most important thing? Because I don't think I'm going to be able to come up with a game that ticks all of these boxes. So in terms of like importance, is it more important that we get a game that you can teach to these people in that time frame, or is it more important that maybe not all of them understand the game because it's a bit more complicated, but it does teach the negotiation skills a little bit better? Or, and this is a factor we haven't thought about yet, is it a game that you can actually get 300 copies of? Because if so, we've already eliminated Splotter from that.
That's true. That's true. Let's say like the military uses war games, and I assume some of the people involved playing those war games don't know all the rules, but they're just there to experience some of the motions of war, I guess. So let's say the military's like, war games work. let's use a game to teach negotiation. So it isn't that important that people fully understand the rules. They just need to go through the motions of negotiation and gain some experience.
Negotiation skills is the key here.
Yes.
How do we teach these people? Because if they're going to be on the front lines dealing with this unknown entity, I guess that's the most important thing. Okay, cool. That does help actually.
I have a really interesting one, but the problem is I haven't played the game.
Oh yeah,
So
I have the same thing. I've 2 games where I think this might be something, but I haven't played both of them.
I've got a game as well, but I have played it, and I'm just really.
Look at me! I've got a game. I don't play it. Oh.
No, but I mean, it's just such a hard. This is actually good because it's really challenging, and I just gotta. That's why I was asking, because I was like,
trying to help you decide.
Yeah, because I could go down either route, and certainly like I said, it's hard to find one that fits in all of these. So yeah, I sort of have one, but I'm certainly not 100% done exploring the topic either.
I've definitely got one.
Wow, Ben's straight in there.
Yeah.
If you played the game as well, if you want to rub that in a bit.
I've played
nice.
my game. So there.
And here I was going like Ben is secretly signaling games from his background. So Rich and Russ are having an easy time, but no.
Yeah.
There's only we're actually in the Yogscast studios, and they only have about sort of 20 board games here, and they're not in. Yeah. But I'm just visioning the wall from Chance Encounters right now, trying to figure out which ones are the ones that are actually most useful here.
I like how 20 board games for most people is an insane amount, but we're just so desensitized. We're like, it's only 20 board games.
Rookie numbers, really.
Numbers.
Can't even fill a Kallax with that. What are you doing?
I think I worked out that a Kallax shelf holds about 5 board games, give or take. I mean, seems like Heinze has quite a few more.
I think we have
it's about that.
Yeah, I was going to say there's definitely 5 in some of those, but I feel like
most of those have got 5 in.
Yeah.
So that basically only means that it would be 4 shelves of a Kallax, which those are rookie numbers.
Those are rookie numbers.
Let's see you getting into that button shy game.
Yeah.
This says something about your collection, doesn't it? Because most of mine have only got 4 on. I think I've got big ass games.
Well, to be fair, I can adjust the camera a bit. The bigger games are up there.
Oh wow. That is a problem of taking them down, surely.
But they're there for a reason. They don't have to calm down that often.
Makes sense. But then you get to have one of those cool ladders, like in an old-timey library.
That is the dream.
You know what I mean? On like runners.
Yes.
I went to a board game shop once in Europe, and I'm really struggling to remember exactly where it was, but they had a wall that was so tall, and it was just full of games that you could actually buy.
Nice.
But it did have one of those sort of wheelie ladders that went across it. And part of me was like, I'd love to buy a game just so I could go up there, but I know they won't let me go. They'll get one of the staff members to go up there. But it was a really cool venue. I think I want to say it was definitely in Europe, but I'm not 100% sure.
Was it in Utrecht? Because I think there's a board game store that has that situation going on over there.
Given that I've never been there, I would say no.
Highly unlikely then.
Oh, hang on. I just found it. It's Copenhagen.
Copenhagen.
Yeah, it's called Faros Cigara. I don't know if it'll come across on the screen, but look, that's it.
What? That is insanely high.
Like you can see the ladder there.
Wow.
Whoa,
see the ladder there?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, that was pretty cool. I was like, I couldn't believe that they had that. It was just mad. It's so tall.
All right, let's get ready for some game recommendations. Would anyone like to go first?
I can go first, if you like.
Sure.
So I feel like I might be going in a slightly different direction to you guys. I know that peaceful contact is priority number 1, but you should always be prepared for non-peaceful contact as well. So I want to merge peaceful alliance making with preparedness for betrayal. I want all of our negotiators to really know how to understand what someone else wants, and use it against them. Because as I understand it, there's multiple different races of subterranean people coming. And if they were to all unite against us, that'd probably be pretty bad. So I want to be able to set them against each other potentially, or like ally with some and not with others. In a perfect world, we'd all be friends. But, we don't live in a perfect world. We live in a real cynical world. So I'm going to recommend the classic game, Diplomacy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
A strategic board game for 7 players with 0 random luck. And the gameplay comes entirely through players being forced to work together through a series of alliances. Which can be betrayed and undermined. And so I want every negotiator to know that you may get perfect promises from everyone, but ultimately anyone can betray you at any time, and you need to be ready for that. I want them to experience the brutality that is diplomacy firsthand, and really just have their faith in humanity ruined time and time again, so that they're ready for anything. I don't know if anyone here's played Diplomacy.
I've never played it. Never played it.
I played one game. It took 24 hours. I was Italy and destroyed at hour 14.
Ow.
Wow.
I played it during the lockdown via online. It's the one sort of thing that you can do. You can set for a day. So you'd have a turn a day. And so I played it with a few of my friends. And I when they decided to restart the game, I could not rejoin them because I feared our friendships would not last.
Wow. You see, this is why it's the perfect scenario. None of these people are friends, and they're forced to be together for 72 hours. You've got no excuses. You're not going to break up any friendships. You've got more than enough time to play at least 2 rounds of it. True. I think it's ideal.
We might not need all 300, so it's fine if some of them end up missing for whatever reason.
Whatever reason, they've just excused themselves. I think it's great. It's finally the forced captive audience I've needed to finish a few games of this.
Oh my days. Fair enough. I mean, it's a good game for a reason. Geez, yeah, okay.
Any questions?
It's an oldie, but a goodie. Yeah. Any questions?
No, actually, I think it's a great pick because there's a very limited amount of rules, so it's pretty easy to
explain and learn.
It's easy to get going. Actually, I kind of want to see a diplomacy variant with forces being able to come out of the ground because it will actually solve the Italy problem because
they break the deadlock.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Expansion.
So maybe subterranean diplomacy is that niche that breaks the whole design wide open.
Yeah, maybe we all decide that the lizard people are too powerful, and we broker an alliance with the mole people and the worm people.
Yeah,
and that they wouldn't have even imagined of doing that without having been destroyed by alliances in diplomacy.
Yeah,
does it inevitably come down to breaking things, or is there any hope for a player like me who hates betrayal to work and win honestly and peacefully?
You can have a team victory. Possible to have a 2-player victory where you team up forever, never betrayal. But that's also up to the other player whether they want to stab you in the back or not. They're not locked into that. It's just one of their options.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right. I don't know if I'll ever play it. It just seems like, as you said, the length of the game, like I think I will play almost anything except games that take far too long for what they are.
And
that's the reason I won't ever touch Game of Thrones or board gaming them.
The one thing I would say, it's the only time I've actually played Diplomacy and seen it all the way through to the end is when I played an online 1 move a day game that took a few weeks to play. I don't think I ever would be able to sit down and play it for 8 hours straight.
That's the best format, I would say.
Is that because then you can like text each other like strategy? You don't have to be because I think that would be more fun. There was actually, I think I've heard about people playing that game via mail as well, like old school snail mail.
That's what it used to be because it was made in the 50s.
Yeah.
So, that was literally the only way to play.
I would love that. I genuinely would love that receiving post because I'd be like, what are they going to do? Like the ideas you'd build up in your head about what people are about to do and then just like suddenly finding
Could
out.
you imagine
by
that?
the
You've spent months like negotiating back and forth with everyone, and then one morning you open your mail, and in it is France has invaded Dover.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, you promised. We spent weeks talking about this.
And
We were going
it
to
wasn't-
invade Germany together.
And it couldn't have been a snap decision either. You would have had to written that out. You know, you've
Yeah.
really thought about that.
Committed to destroying
the
you.
betrayal would hurt more.
Yeah. I would love to play a game by mail. What I've also learned that historically people used to play chess using bank transfers. Because using the little comment field while making a bank transfer and just depositing a cent, because that would be cheaper than sending the mail over. But that, at least I heard it's illegal now to do that way.
Oh my god!
I love that.
Suddenly we're on a tangent about the slowest way to play games in the world.
These are really cool alternative ways.
Yeah, right?
I would never thought that.
I'm just gonna walk. I'm gonna walk a marathon. I'm gonna spell out my next move.
Yeah, I'm gonna figure on my move.
Yeah, just check my fitness tracker app online to see my next move.
Or playing diplomacy, but actually going to the countries if you want.
I invade. Hello, Eiffel Tower.
Here's a photo of me in Paris.
Amazing. Excellent. Well, that is a very interesting option. Russ, did you want to introduce yours?
Sure. My again, as I think it's hard to come up with a game that fits everything, and I do want to. The reason why I asked is because I wanted to know what was the most important thing to focus on, and you said negotiation skills. There are that many games that allow you to do this, but the two in my head that involve are like actually hostage negotiation games. And so I was debating which one. There's Two Rooms and a Boom, which is a bit more of a light-hearted game, but I went with the other one because I feel like it's more realistic, and it's called Hostage Negotiator. So not quite the vibe. Obviously, this is a bit different, but who knows? Who knows how this meeting could turn out?
Yeah.
It could be awful, and then maybe they too capture some of the humans, and you have to try and negotiate their release. But this is a solo game, and as we discovered on an earlier episode, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to play it on your own. You can play it with multiple people as long as you're all making the decisions together. And the goal is to try and rescue as many of the hostages as possible. There's dice rolling in it. There's deck building in it. Your goal is you've got a sort of a person, and what's kind of interesting about this game is that each person has a different motive, a goal, and they play differently, and so you're trying to work with them by buying these cards, which allow you to do sort of like. It's been a while since I've played it, but I remember there's dice that you roll and they have like successes on them, and so you're basically trying to pick an option of these cards. Each card has multiple options or multiple values on it, depending on how successful you are when you're playing this card. And you're just trying to use those cards to sort of release the hostages. There's a dial or a position on a track that goes back or forth depending on how well you're doing in your negotiations. If you kind of read the room well, you can get more dice to roll. But if you mess up and you piss the hostage taker off, then it becomes harder to do that, and maybe they'll like sacrifice one of their hostages as like punishment. So it's a careful like balance of trying to keep the hostage taker happy, but also getting them to release the hostages as well, because there's no point keeping them happy if you're not actually doing your job of rescuing the people. And it's got a lot of content in it for such a small box game. And in my head, I was like, okay, so this is obviously about learning negotiation skills. But I also thought it'd be really funny to have 300 people learning how to play a game separately, like kind of a really angry sort of game, because it is a very threatening scenario, just like having these people like intensely learning how to play this game about hostage negotiations and shouting all sorts of nonsense like, no, why did you kill them? So I think that's my pitch. Just I took it kind of very on the nose about this negotiation skills. But it's a good solid game. I have played it a while back, and it is one of those really sort of solid solo deck builders, and I enjoyed it. It is very thematic as well. So yeah, Hostage Negotiator.
Very cool.
Nice.
I like how you took in the we need people to learn how to improvise and read the room aspects of the scenario as well. So that's very, very cool.
Yeah, and I just, it's, I know it's not necessarily, I mean, 70, you could definitely like teach it in that. But as I said, like, I was just, do I go down Ben's route, and like, whether we're picking a game where, it's actually going to be dealing with whatever the aftermath of the comeuppance, the surfacing of them all, the subterranean races are, or do I just go for the skills, or do I go for the easy to teach, like 300 people in a time sensitive environment? So yeah, I hope I picked well. We'll see.
Okay, so I think there's I may be wrong, limited numbers of board games that absolutely fits this situation. So obviously you guys have gone slightly different directions. I was probably more focused on communication at this point. I'm going to believe that the mole people or the lizard folk don't want to come and start a war. That's I believe that everyone should be given an opportunity to prove themselves. I'm sure they're coming here for other reasons. Yeah, maybe they don't have an issue with the sparrow, but that's we don't want to interfere with that. We just want to generate those good relations. And for good relations, we need good communication. And so for that, I actually have, there's a board game that is called Concept, which is a fantastic board game for utilizing that information and passing concepts around each other. So the idea is that the board is broken down into segments, and in those segments they'll have little animations that represent tall, short, red, yellow, green, blue, different colors, flying, like walking, humans, animals, various all different bits. And so the board is broken into these pictures that allow you to convey a concept across it. So I think one of the examples on the back of the box is it flies, it's small, it's yellow and black, and then that leads you onto believing that it's a bee or something along those lines. So what will happen is the game plays that one of you takes a card and you're trying to communicate one of those 9 clues, and it's from sort of easy, medium, and hard with the other players, and then whoever gets that gets it correct gets additional points. So there's a point scoring mechanism, and at the end of the game, when all of the points have been allocated, and then whoever has the most points. But the reason that this is suitable for this one is that you can spend a lot of time trying to convey these concepts, so you can hone their kind of language skills, trying to get these ideas passed through, and then because it's kind of pictorial as well, that board can then quite rapidly become almost like a Ouija board, like a communication board between the underground people and then the above ground people that could facilitate communication very early on. If it's like pick the tank and then pick the humans and fighting, then it's probably maybe that is war starting, but at least you knew what it was now.
I like that they'd use the medium of the board to start the war rather than just start attacking you. No, because they say that there's no the best element in war is the advance warning of the war, right?
Yeah.
Not surprised.
So I think that this doesn't necessarily focus on the well, it kind of does focus on diplomacy, and that's the point. If you are unable to talk to them, then it doesn't really matter what's going on. This helps take abstract ideas, break them down into things that you can then convey, and then you can always create a story through this medium of pictures. And I think that's going to be incredibly useful and necessary when they finally arise. And it might take you some time to learn. So that 72 hours, perfect amount of time?
I also think that you have, these aren't people from different worlds. That a lot of the visual concepts that they're seeing might be actually familiar to them as well. And also, it's just a game that would be fun to play if you learned how to play the game. You could be like, yeah, let's have a little bit of just a play, on a break time, between having to this insanity that is happening around you. You can be like, let's just have a little bit of a fun game to play.
Also, just the visual idea of this dramatic Michael Bay military hangar full of people playing a bright, colorful game of concept. It's really funny.
Explosions everywhere.
Yeah. oh, it's yellow, right?
Okay. Have you played the game before? Have you got any questions about it?
No, well, I haven't played the game before, but I've seen it played. So I have a good idea how it works. I'm not as good as Russell at figuring out the whole rule systems just by looking at a game. But I think I know.
Not everyone can be.
No.
Not everyone can be.
But I think I got a good grasp on how it works. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Do you have any further questions? Do you want to drill into any of these?
Oh, yeah. So I really like that it's three very different picks, which is very cool. It's not like, oh, it's Pandemic. No, it's the Spanish edition of Pandemic, and it's the Star Wars edition of Pandemic. They're very different, and they all have like a good, solid foundation of reasoning behind them. I was worried before Rich started his pick that we're all gonna hate on the mole people somehow. That nobody would trust them. So I'm happy that Rich went like, well, maybe we should just come to it open-mindedly. So no, I really like the picks. I want to drill down on this. I have a pretty clear visual understanding of what it would look like and what people would be doing and stuff. So I don't know. No, it's all obvious and clear to me.
Do you know which one you think takes the win?
I think I'm gonna give the win to you, Rich.
Nice, yeah.
Congratulations.
And what the seal the deal was like, we can use the board as a primitive communication tool for first contact. That was like, this is layered. Yeah. This is like a well-made lasagna. Suddenly, we're not only using this to help people break down language and communicate, but we're also bringing it along and showing the giant mole people on roaches like, look, bee. Do you know bee?
Yes, we know bees. We're friends now.
We're friends now.
Yes.
Very good.
I agree.
Very good pick. I don't like how cocky you're getting, though, with all these points, though.
Just you wait till the lizard folk betray you and no one was prepared. That's all I can say.
Oh, if only we had military people. Oh, no. It's fine. I believe in the best of people. So, amazing. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for coming on and spending your evening with us. And where can people find you and Semi-Co-op?
You can find us pretty much everywhere. So we have a website, semicoop.com. We have a Twitter, we have a Facebook, we have an Instagram, and we even have a ongoing Board Game Geek forum thread, if that is your favorite way to consume webcomics. So you can give us thumbs up and geek gold, which we can distribute among the board game poor to buy avatars and stuff like that.
Amazing.
Perfect.
And where can people find us, Ben?
Well, where you can find us, you can watch the video version on YouTube, or you can get the audio version wherever you find your podcasts. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like or a comment or a 5-star review. We greatly appreciate it to help the podcast grow. And we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.